Good morning, Kurt here, and I've got a little bit of an embarrassing question for you. What was your worst haircut? This weekend, we were looking at 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 6, where Paul says, I have no regrets. And, well, I wish I could say that. I've made a lot of mistakes. In fact, watch this clip.
If you regret something, raise your hand right now. Come on, raise. Oh, if you didn't put your hand up, we're going to preach on lying next, because we all make mistakes. Give me an amen if you believe that.
Yeah.
I can prove this to you just by a record of your haircuts. Let's look at the haircuts in the 1970s. How many had anything like this? Anyone willing to admit that? This is the Dorothy Hamill. That's the dirty mustache. I don't know what that thing's called. Didn't get better in the 80s. In the 80s, we have Bono here wearing a mullet. Thank you, Bono, for starting that tradition. Now, before you women start getting self-esteem about yourselves, look at the hair you wore in the 80s. There it is.
Oh, wow.
That's 80s hair.
That's the burning bush.
Yes, the 90s. The 90s got a little, keep that line for the next service, yeah. Now this is what they call, not the Jennifer, it's the Rachel from the Friends thing. Do you want to see the mistake that Andrew and I made in the 90s? Here's our hair in the 90s, Andrew and I, yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
We tried it didn't work. Guys, look how old I look in the 90s.
America's Most Wanted.
Get that off the screen. Something as simple as a haircut just proves we all make mistakes. Paul made mistakes. He said, the thing I don't want to do, I do. The thing I should do, I don't do. But at the end, his mistakes didn't define him. Write this in. Paul lived with earthly convictions. He also lived with eternal perspective. And that created in him a marathon mindset. It wasn't about one mistake. It wasn't about one regret. It was about his overall mission and never giving up on that mission from Christ. I love these verses. Now, you got to remember, Paul is at the end of his life. These are his last words. He's in jail. He's been whipped at least 3 times, possibly more. Most scholars think he's blind. He is receiving news that the churches he's planted are in conflict and discouragement. And this is what he writes. For I am already being poured out like a drink offering, and the time for my departure is near. What do you expect the next sentence to be? Something depressing? Something defeatist? I have fought the good fight, he says. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day. And not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing. This man has more victory in jail than most of us have in bed. Mm-hmm. Why? 3 F words in the passage. You're going to study some F words at church this morning. I know that's not normal, but they're important. Here they are. Write them down. Fight, finish, and faith. He says, when things don't go my way, I live without regrets, not because I'm mistake-free, but because I get back up and fight. What should you do for your marriage? You should fight for it. For that kid that you're not connecting with in your family, fight for him. For that problem at work, for your church, for your faith, you've got to be a person who gets back up off the ground and throws a punch. That's why, Adventure, you are running on all cylinders, because a core of you decided to fight. That's why, Blue Oaks, you launched faster and better than any church in this area. That's why Midtown is growing in the impossible circumstance of that missional environment. And Folsom, you and I have been in living rooms together during tough times. You have some fighters. That's what we need to keep doing to keep growing. Give me an amen.
Yes.
I mean, that's too good at preaching. You guys were just listening. Amen in there. Then you got to finish. Now see here, it's not just good enough to get up once and throw a punch. You got to say, that's my stance all my life. So I said, Adventure, we're going to go through another tough season. Blue Oaks, your marriage, Folsom, your kids, your work, that's what happens in life. You got to say, I'll throw a punch and I'll keep throwing punches. Who knows what's going to happen next? But we can determine we're going to fight and we're going to finish. Why? Now, this is the important part. These two don't work unless you got this one. He says, I have lived a faith. What does that mean? It means he decided early on who he was going to trust. Not himself. I mean, can we trust people that actually wear mullets? No, not ourselves. We put our faith in the only person worthy of trust, which is Jesus Christ. Yeah. By the way, you want to keep running? You want to have that marathon mindset? You want to never give up. You got to determine you're going to be a fighter. You got to determine you're going to fight all the way to the end. And most importantly, you have to be the sort of person who determines who you trust. And when you do that, you'll get to the end and not be mistake-free, you'll be regret-free.